Welcome to part 2. In this volume in the series, we will be addressing the intermediate operational and functionality of the Karambit. We mentioned this briefly in our earlier training. We're going to look at a little bit of the detail that goes into changing range and operating with the Karambit. One of these main important elements is changing elevation, going from a high position to a low position. And we talked about these 3 different postures. It was going from standing to going to kneeling, to going to low kneeling, to going to sitting. Okay, so we're going to talk about the first part, which is going to kneeling. If, for example, he is working with a training tool, and I'm working with the Karambit, I would like to change elevation. For an example, he's coming from the high line, the high open, and I come to the outside and change elevation. So I'm going into a solid 3-point stance. Okay, let's do that again. On the high line attack, I'm going to move down and away. There are 3 major points to keep in mind when you're changing elevation, especially going to a kneeling position. The kneeling position is described as we described before, a single point on the foot, a single point on the toes, and a single point on the knees. Solid 3-point stance. The movement is, as the motion occurs, you're stepping to the outside and moving your body down and away. And you're keeping the edge and the tip in your center. Similar to a light going from yellow to red, you want to have proper timing. If he slashes in this direction and I move after the slash, it's bad timing. If I move before the slash, he can simply change direction. So I need to have proper timing when I'm moving down and away. And that is to develop the skill to time when the movement is occurring. So this particular drill will be beginning at long range, where neither one of us can make contact with the body. From this position, he will deliver a slow and controlled slashing motion to the high line, in which this case I'll move to the outside, down and away, establishing a solid 3-point stance, keeping the edge forward. The other position in which you can travel on the low line by changing elevation is going the other direction. Same thing. We gauge for a long distance, make sure we can't touch each other. He raises up, slashes. I move to the backward position. So let's take a closer look at the way the knees work. If I was to move forward, I'm going to move my foot forward by taking a step and dropping the weight behind for support. If you choose to move backward, the same position, the rear leg goes first and the front leg comes back. So when you put all the pieces together, it goes back and then the knee comes down. Okay, so look at that again. In order to avoid stepping forward and down. And again going backwards, backwards, and down. In either position, you're creating this solid 3-point stance in changing elevation. So let's keep those points in mind. Number 1, timing. I don't want to be there when my attacker is. I want to be out of the way long before. And my two positions can be either forward, where I'm moving outside, or I can move back 45 degrees away from the attack in a solid 3-point stance via changing elevation. One point in tactical operation with the Karambit, very similar to a firearm. This is known as a red gun. It's an inert piece of molded plastic which is incapable of firing for demonstration purposes. Again, similar to operation of a firearm, in which case you may have the situation where you need to execute a tactical or a speed reload. The operation occurs up at about eye level. The same thing applies for the Karambit. When you're moving forward or backward or changing elevation, you want to keep the blade and hand up around face or eye level so you can see from your line of vision not only what's going around you, but also the blade in front of you. Very similar to operation of a firearm. One of the best ways to develop your mobility is to train with your partner in simultaneous movement forward and backward. We're going to combine some of the earlier training drills that we did prior and put them together using mobility. So this is our first mobility training drill. Okay, we face our partner. We're going to start at approximately close range, so our hands are relatively able to make contact at close quarters. When he steps forward with his lead leg, I'm going to keep my hand up and the bottom hand under. When he steps forward again, I'm going to keep this hand again on the outside and place palm up, palm down. Now I'll be stepping forward. He thrusts the inside hand. Remember, we're always trying to achieve an outside position. Bottom hand palm up, right hand palm down. I step forward again. Palm up, palm down. He steps forward. Palm up, palm down. He steps forward again. Palm up, palm down. I step forward. Notice the foot and hand position. The lead hand is with the lead foot, like we talked about earlier. From a natural walking posture, this is what it would look like. If I walk into him, I immediately crouch down into kuda kuda, and I'm in position to deal with what may be in front. If he walks forward again, and I walk forward, that's the drill. Just go back and forth, back and forth. Okay, the second part of this drill is if my training partner ends up with a training tool and I end up with a training Karambit in my hand, again, starting from the foot posture where the opposing hand is in the same direction as the opposing foot to simulate a natural walking posture. He's going to step forward, and we're going to execute this drill as we did earlier with the Chamandi drill. Now he steps forward with his hand, I'm going to check. Remember that thing we did where we came down on the object. He steps back, I execute Chamandi Satu. He steps backward again, and I use that simple downward motion that we talked about as we hacked earlier. Remember that chopping the carrots concept. He steps forward, same thing, Chamandi number 1. With elbow control, remember the security of pushing down with the blade as you push up with the hand. He steps forward again, check, to be sure you have good contact. He steps back, check, he steps back again. He steps forward, he steps forward. Okay, so he comes back one more time, and again, he steps forward, and one more time. One of the key elements to success in mobility is being able to modify your direction, especially as it occurs and you don't know where or when it's going to occur, as for example in a multiple attacker scenario, or whether someone's in front of you or off to the side or behind you. So mobility and direction are tied together. In this specific drill, known as Kuda Kuda Satu, is the first drill, I'm going to do this movement without my training partners just to illustrate the juru, or the basic motion without a partner. So the first move is from a standing position. You would open up to the right, or you could open up to the left, kiri dan kanan, either way. And then from that position, once you're open, hands come forward. The first movement, again without your partner, would be moving one direction, keeping your hands at shoulder height, coming back to center, and moving in the opposite direction. Back to center, and facing your partner. Back to center, facing your partner, back to center, and bring your leg back. Okay, so this is known as the juru, or the movement without partners. Now, if I can employ the assistance of my partners, as I'm changing position, his hand is going to come out. I'm going to move and position myself so as to catch, as we did in that first drill, palm up, palm down. I move back into center position. Out of the periphery of my eye, I see the other hand movement. Comes up, same position, palm down, palm up. Go back to center, move again to the outside, lock in position, come back to center, and move again. Noticing your partner's movement out of the corner of your eye. The second part of this drill is, if you are training with your training karambit and your partners are each training with their trainer blades, if you could ask your partners to gauge for close range. So I'm going to gauge with my partner on the right, and I'm going to gauge with my partner on the left. When you begin this drill, you start the same way we did in the bua. Take your opening leg, come to the outside. When you sense movement on one side, you move towards that, pick it up with the karambit, and palm up, palm down. Remember what we talked about a little earlier. There's pressure down with the karambit and up with the opposing hand. As you exit, you come back to center. Movement then comes in from the opposite side and come up. So you have palm up and palm down, just like we talked about earlier, thrusting upward. Back to center. You see it again on the opposite side. Palm down, palm up. Back to center. Palm down, palm up. Again, incorporating both mobility and directionality. This motion should be mastered long before you start changing elevations and movement. So first we need to take a look at directional and then mix that in with our mobility. All right, so the first part of this drill is your foot and hand, again, move at the same time. We're taking kuda kuda dua, which is the second position. As you move forward, you stay on that straight line. Just pretend this line in the mat here is your direction. You go forward again on that direction. Then pivoting at the, on the base of the foot as you turn, you've changed your position on that same line in the opposite direction, going the other way,